overnight, my 25-year career was over. Overnight, my reputation was destroyed. Overnight, my name was destroyed. Even to this day, have I watched the video? No.
What would Paul in his 50s tell to Paul in his 20s? You joined the army.
You know, in my 40s, I thought, you're finished. But an age thing is, no, it's not. You know, the army needs people. I checked with my wife first, and I checked, and she said, do it. And then my heart sank. I went, oh my God, I've got to do it. Because that was it. The excuse was taken away because I thought she would say no.
What kept you going?
I'd say this line, everything's going to be okay.
You were managing a family while managing 70 offices around the world.
Certainly, it probably cost me my first marriage. I was always chasing the dollar. I've missed lots of birthdays, parent-teacher evenings, getting through probably about half a dozen lawyers to try and separate myself financially from my ex-wife. I'll never get that time back.
Paul Baquet, finally, thank you so much for coming in.
Great to be here.
Thank you, Paul. So, serial entrepreneur. I don't even know how many business you start, which we're going to talk about it.
Yeah,
a father of 5 children.
5 humans, yes.
5 children and army officer.
Yeah, so spending a stint back in the green, as I'd like to say, yeah.
Wow. Just mention all these 3. I don't know where you find time for sleeping, but we will go through that. So thank you so much for coming in.
Really good to be here, Perry.
Appreciate your time, and especially I've been a big fan of your work. I've met you, I think was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
When I was with David Deauville.
Yeah, closer to the mic.
That's all right,
yeah.
that's okay.
No worries. Back in the George Street days, wasn't it?
Yes.
The legendary George Street office. So,
yes, and I saw you driving with an Aston Martin. I'm like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
And I walked in, I think it was my 2nd or 3rd day, and I was like, he's in. And he's actually running the game and on the stage and teaching people how to sell. So thank you so much for coming in, mate. Appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. You know, those are good memories. You know, even as you talk about George Street now, like I'm lucky that I've got a little serviced office still in George Street.
You still have it?
Yeah, so that office, I moved into that office in the year 2000. So what are we now, 2025? So, 25 years I have had a relationship with that building, and still continues to this day.
Very good. So, Paul, I'm so fascinated about your lifestyle, sales experience, the drive.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna go through so much stuff, and I'm just wow. Yeah. Okay, so let's go step by step.
Yeah.
You born and bred in
the UK. Yeah. So came over to Australia. Let's go backwards. Went to university in the UK. Had a career path that I was planning at age sort of 23.
Yeah.
Was supposed to join the British Army. I had 6 months before going to a place called Sandhurst, which is the Australian equivalent of Duntroon, and had 6 months. So needed to kill 6 months. So I went through Thailand, as all backpackers do, and I was in Thailand, and someone was like, hey, look, we're all heading down to Australia to watch some cricket. And I met up with some crazy Barmy Army people in Thailand, and they were like, hey, let's get you, come and join us in Melbourne, and let's go have some fun. So boarded a plane from Thailand with not a lot of money because I spent it all on Sangtip. Everyone knows what Sangtip is, and having a good a good time over in Thailand. And then got here to Australia, need to make some money really quickly. So I was at a cricket match, part of the Barmy Army. It was Atherton's Barmy Army. So if you do your history research, Atherton, that was the year he was the captain. So it was Atherton's Barmy Army. And I was at the cricket match, and one of the guys from the hostel was doing some direct sales, doing some sales for a company called Optus. He's been trying to PR me. He didn't realize a few nights at the hostel, and I was not keen. But then he goes,
personal recruitment.
Personal recruiting, yeah. He's trying to recruit me. And we went to a cricket. He said, look, come along to this cricket match and I can get you a couple of free tickets. So I went, perfect. When we got to the cricket match, met all the sales reps. They were at this cricket match, and I was sitting near them. And what happened? The beers would get passed along, and as they'd get passed, I was handing them on. Eventually, I'd end up with 2 in my hand, and I was like, I love these people. And that relationship went on for about 20 years, 25 years from that one cricket match. Yeah.
So, okay, you joined the team after?
Correct. Yeah. The next day, hungover, I rocked up to the office in Richmond, Bridge Road, Richmond, and started my sales career.
Very good. Door-to-door sales.
Correct. Yeah.
Very good. And did you enjoy at the start?
I found I was a natural. I love leading. And I love talking. Anyone knows me? It's the thing I love. I enjoy communicating. So for me, going out, I found the sales pretty straightforward because I just had a conversation. I was just going out and talking to people. I was given a system, a sales system, a 5-step system. I just applied that to me talking. It was kind of in my background, the introduction, short story, presentation, close, rehash.
I remember.
But I was just talking. And, I love talking to people, and I found the more I talked, the more sales I made. So, yeah.
Door-to-door sales.
Correct.
I love that.
It's not easy. And for anyone who's ever done door-to-door sales will know, it can be tough. It's physically tough, just wandering the streets in the heat.
Yeah.
But emotionally, it's quite easy because just chatting to people, and that's how I justified it. I'm just going and having a conversation with people.
I actually really enjoyed the years that I spent doing door to door.
Yeah.
And I would say, the negative was more like the weather.
Yeah, correct. It was the things you couldn't control. You can control the weather,
Yeah, the rest I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And has been teaching me so much that I'm using right now.
Yeah.
And really, I believe, shape you.
Yeah.
Not just from a sales point of view, but even from an attitude point of view, which I believe anyone should do like 2-3 months of door-to-door sales. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Are you gonna teach your kids to do?
Look, well, I've got adults now. I've got 3 adults, and it's been suggested, but they're all they're all at university, and they're all doing other things.
Okay, so you started in sales, door to door. You were a natural, and you were doing pretty well straight away.
Yeah, I found the sales pretty straightforward because I was finding the sales straightforward. They gave me people to train, so what I did was I taught them my system, which was a pretty straightforward system. I'd have lots of enthusiasm. My tonality was there. I'd use banter. I'd teach them some of my tricks about my personality because I'd like to think I'm quite a smart person. But when I went in the field, I kind of switched that guy off and I became this alter ego called Rodney. And Rodney was from Only Fools and Horses, and he was also a nickname I was given whilst working in a bar in Spain many years before. They used to call me Rodney. So it was my alter ego, and this is a bit more simpler. So, I didn't try and overcomplicate the deal. I kept it really simple. Paul would have probably made it more complicated, but Rodney kept it simple. He just explained the basics of the deals, and that's how I taught people. I kept things really simple, and that was my principles of teaching sales. So often people would learn a complicated pitch, but I was always trying to dumb it down. And so I found that the people I trained then did well. And within about 18 weeks, I had a team of 25 people on my crew. And I went on to get promoted into a management role. So it was 18 weeks from walking through the front door to becoming a manager.
Damn.
And then it kind of kept going from there. I was a manager, and then that team got even bigger. And before I know it, I rocked up to the office one morning, and it was like 80% of the office were on my team. And then it became pretty apparent that to the manager at the time, or the owner of the business at the time, who was actually not even in the city, he was in Sydney. He said, "Hey, I need to sponsor you. You're staying." And I was like, "Hey, but I've got this military career planned." He went, "Hey, okay, let me explain how much money you're going to make." And I went, "Okay, the military career can wait." And that's exactly what happened. He went, "Right, I went from making sort of 10% to making 100% overnight." And I went, it was, the income was pretty big. So I sort of decided to stick around, and that was my career.
Nice. So in 18 weeks, you build a team of 20?
It was about 35 people.
35 people. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Eventually, that was why I got promoted. So the whole office was majority.
And was there commissions only?
Correct. Everyone was on commission, so people had to show up to want to make money. But part of my philosophy was I made it the education process fun as well, and I kind of missed that part out because I think from the sales going out and doing the field sales, I kept it simple. But with the education part, I made it always entertaining. People would come into the office of a morning, and I would make it fun. It wasn't boring. I wanted to entertain them. So I'm sure people came in every day for the show. Like we made every day a show where people would come in and there'd be games, we'd play games and we'd have fun, and there'd be a topic, there'd be some content. But my intent was for people to leave smiling. Because if they came in and they were here, they spent some time with me of a morning and I got them up here. When they'd actually go and meet the customers, if they dropped them down a little bit, they were still higher than what they'd been had they just got out of bed. So my intent was to set them goals, motivate them, give them a bit of a dream time. So when they're out during the day, they were focused on something, and that really worked.
That's brilliant. I've got a few points there. So you've been building a team and teaching them how to sell door to door on a commission only.
Yeah.
And you build a team pretty quickly by make it simpler.
Yeah.
So copyable.
Yeah.
That's some very good valuable lesson right there that you can relate in every businesses. Making the education process fun and leave them with a good attitude.
100%. Yeah, the basic philosophies of sales is we call it kiss versus kill. Are you kissing a customer or killing a customer?
Bring this stuff up because this stuff needs to stay alive.
Because it is, and so often a lot of the sales principles nowadays, it's very easy to jump onto ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT for the perfect pitch, but that some of the principles that maybe ChatGPT isn't paying attention to, are lost. Kiss versus kill being one of them. Impulse factors, how to impulse people correctly. So there are certain fundamentals that you need to use when you're actually, and you mentioned it before, Perry, are actually out in direct sales. I'd be interested in how many people are even watching this who had a career in direct sales, who will attribute their success now. Because I do get those messages and people go, hey, I work with you, or I remember you. I had a holiday. I was just a backpacker, that I spent a few months doing some direct sales, and I went off and I applied those same principles. Because principles and systems and processes, once you got them, it becomes part of your DNA. It's because you don't know anything different. It's like, what would you do? If something drops, you catch it. It's instinctively. You don't just let it go to the ground. It becomes part of what you do. And sales, after a while, becomes very intuitive. You know when to shut up. And even for me, even nowadays, when I do, I know I've got to do it. My mouth struggles, but I actually purse my lips. So I just close them off. So
Okay, so for people who don't know, when you mentioned kiss on kill, keep it stupidly simple.
Keep it short and simple.
Or kill.
Or keep it simple. Keep it simple. Stupid. No, keep it short and sweet. There you go.
Okay. Or kill. Keep it long and
lethal. Yeah.
So
basically, if it's short, you're going to sign them up. If it's long, it's lethal. It's dead.
Are you going to do some video content on these specific fundamentals that people can just go out there and watch?
100%. I mean, part of where I am from here is to share some of the things that have been lost. What I've noticed nowadays, everyone's an expert.
Yeah.
But not everyone has actually been through the process and really tried and tested some of these principles. And I'm really lucky to believe that I have over, 10 years, 30 years, 3 decades. No, that feels like a long time. It was longer, but over 30 years, these have been battle tested. So I know they work, and I'm. It's not even someone who did it last year. These is a process I'm still applying right now. As in, there's going to be people maybe watching this who are going to probably get me, come and knock on the door next week saying, hey, I'm going to be trying to sign you up for something. I'm using those same principles. So they're going to be out there, Perry.
Love it. Please, they have to be alive and they have to be there. And I'm a big fan of it. Okay, so the next question is, so building a team and leadership.
Yep.
Okay. And I've noticed in my experience, I became then like a manager, and I saw a lot of good salespeople.
Yeah.
They struggle to build a team.
Yeah.
And do you think this is because it's an ego point of view, or because I've seen this a lot of time, high performers, often, not always, they struggle to become good leaders.
Yeah. There's a classic point about that, because I find that people who excel, who are excellent, it's very hard to replicate them. It's a lot easier. If I'm average, I can teach you to be average easily. But if I'm excellent, I can't teach you to do that. I've so often, and I know that because when I would train people, Perry, the days I would do the most sales, people would turn around, when we had the day of observations, the day of O's, the people watching us, they'd turn around and go, you know what, Paul, had a great day with you, but I just cannot do what you do. And I went, but look how many sales I did today. And I went, that's exactly why. There's no way I can do that. You were twisting and turning, But the days that I struggle the most in sales, those are the days I retain the best people, because I would work very hard. I would do a lot more explaining than selling. And I'd have to explain the processes that I was using rather than actually doing the sales. So I'd actually have to what I'm working on now with the customer is this, this customer's not going to sign up with me today, but I'd actually explain the process. So I found that by explaining things to people rather than actually just doing it, I found that was a better training methodology. Rather than just showing people, it was, a lot harder. I'll come back to the point you said about ego, because I think sometimes we try and make great salespeople, great trainers, but if you're great at sales, be great at sales. And it's about a good manager to know to put people in those right positions. Some strikers need to be strikers. When you give Harry, I was going to say Harry Kewell now, but he was midfielder. But where you give Harry Kane from Tottenham, now in German, Dortmund. But, his position was not in goal. His position was not in defense. His position was not in midfield. His position would be sat in front of the goal mouth, and you want to give him the ball. Because he's going to put it in the back of the net. That's just what he does. His goal, he's good at putting his foot to a ball and putting it in the back of the net. So it's about finding and identifying people's strengths. And if someone's good at closing and selling, that's where they should be. And so often we try and make them great leaders, great managers, but just let them do sales. If this is what you enjoy doing, that's where you're at. That's where you're at. Like for me, I can do sales, Perry, but I'm not the best salesperson. I love coaching and training and teaching. That's my lot.
Yeah. No, I love what you're saying. As a manager, it's very important to identify what's the best role for the right person.
Correct.
And that comes with a lot of people skills. Yep. I love that. And now if I think about it, I made one of these mistakes in the past. Very good. Okay, so you start to build an organization. You become a president. So president means you.
I think that we picked up the US terminology. So, when you get to a certain size, and the team within the organization I was part of had certain US sort of terminologies. So my title was vice president. So as a VP, that meant you'd promoted at least 7 first generation officers and 4 second. I think at the time, if I say I probably had 20 or 30 officers dotted around Australia, predominantly within the telecommunications, then went on to be the energy and then credit industry. So I then became a vice president within Australia. The organization that we were a part of was a global organization. And for me, I was that person who wanted to leave. Like a lot of the other VPs and senior persons in Australia were happy to stay, but I wanted to travel. That travel bug was certainly within me. So I then sort of set about, after I'd filled Australia, was about then sort of global I call it global domination. So then we sort of set about expanding the organization into other countries.
How many people were in your organization at that?
It grew at one point to about 1,000 people on the road day to day. Wow. We were spread across 15 countries. We had, close to, if I say sort of 60, 70 businesses, and then pushing towards 100 businesses, offices, spread across numerous different programs from the US, North America, all over Europe, Scandinavia, and Southeast Asia.
So, I love this. Which leads me to the next question. Like, what got you here will not get you there. What I'm trying to say is, they always, when you scale a business and the business grow, you move through teaching people how to sell, to teaching leader how to lead, and teaching manager how to manage an office. And there is a different skill set as you go up. What would you say the biggest mistakes you've made as a manager that made you understand, all right, I don't need to teach sell now. I need to teach people how to manage?
Look, I guess the classic point is, are you getting results?
Yeah.
If it ain't broken, don't fix it.
Yeah.
So I think my philosophy was if things are broken, that's when I would jump in. And that's invariably the sales are low, people aren't happy. You get whispers. It was through, I call it through the admin net rather than through the sales net, because salespeople, we are typically very positive. I used to have a really good team of administrators who would kind of talk to the other administrators, and then they get the real conversation. What's really going down? What's really happening in the background? So I'm not saying my network of spies, but certainly as the business got bigger, I needed people on the ground feeding information back to me. And it couldn't just be the sales reps, because salespeople are naturally positive. I was like, how was your day today? Amazing. You did 0 sales. How could it be amazing? It was just, because we taught that to people, right? So I found that salespeople were always positive. So having a good network of people to kind of give you the real information, and then most importantly, acting upon it. For me, I was always on planes. Probably cost me a marriage, where I was literally on a plane every week. Of a morning, I'd be flying to Melbourne, flying domestically, and then when I'd do my domestic rounds was then international. So I was always literally in a different country, flying in, flying out. In many cases, we call it putting out fires. And that's what you had to do, because there'd be the embers were there, and you have to jump in, or you get the whisper. And in sales, a lot of it is about supporting and just showing up. And that's what I used to do. I used to show up. And when I show up though, Perry, I didn't necessarily stay in hotels. If you're a manager living in Scandinavia, I'm sleeping on the couch. I'm sleeping in the spare rooms, because my philosophy was, if I'm there, I want to get the most out of my time. I want that. I want to open a wine with you at 11 o'clock at night and have a conversation, because that's when I'd find out what's really going down. Because in the office, everything's positive, but then at 11 o'clock at night, after the second bottle of Shiraz, I'm learning all the problems, and that's when I'm fixing the problems. And I'm putting my arm around someone saying everything. In some cases, I couldn't fix the problem, but I'd say this line: everything's going to be okay. Just stick to the process, and we're going to work through this. And just giving people that support.
What about that? I remember Ben Lyon. He mentioned once that you went to Melbourne to help him out. Doing some work on the office, and you were sleeping with him in his house, I don't know, on the couch. And he was saying that Paul would be on your face at 6 a.m. in the morning. Say, what are you doing?
We'll be at the gym. No, we're at 6 a.m. We're at the gym, right? So and that was it. We were at the gym at 6, and we had hit in the gym. So it just gave me more time with someone. I could stay in a hotel, but I'm at someone's house. We're having breakfast together. We're at the gym together. I get to be in there. And certainly that relationship with Ben. You're right. I was there every morning. I can think of that couch and his dogs waking me up of a morning. So yeah,
I love that. Okay, that was brilliant. So. What I'm trying to get out of this is never fix something that works, and use the time with your manager and maximize the time together to get into the details.
The details, the nitty gritty. What's really going on.
Okay, and after you became a father?
That happened during this process. So, 2003, my son was born. Still to this day, I'd say, I hear you're having a baby soon.
Yes.
So congratulations, Perry.
Thank you, man.
But parenthood is an amazing leveler. I was, still to this day, the happiest day of my life. You created a human. I picked up checks for millions of dollars.
Yeah.
But holding a check for $1 million, holding a baby, throw the check in the bin. That sensation, that feeling can never be replaced. And it becomes addictive. I've now got 5. If I didn't like it that much, I wouldn't have got on. But yeah, I got 5 beautiful children who I love dearly.
Yeah. Thank you for mentioning this. Being a father, is that right to say that make you, I would say, a better leader or a better...
Being a father finally makes you appreciate what other fathers go through. If you have never had children, if you've never been woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, or with a baby crying or a baby screaming, if you haven't been through that process, you can't appreciate it, Perry. You can't read a book on it. You can't empathize. So being a dad means I can relate to dads because I'm part of the club, and you're going to join that club, Perry. So welcome to the club soon, and because you can't appreciate it. And in sales, you meet kids, you go to people's homes. If you're in any sort of sales interaction, there's a lot of people you're going to be selling to have children, they're parents. So from a sales perspective, having children is really good for you. So we want to get better at sales, have kids. So but it certainly helps you empathize and relate to people a lot more because you get it.
Nice. Okay. So you were managing a family while managing 70 offices around the world.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay.
But yet again, there's a but to that. I've made some mistakes, and I think I overstretched. And I remember coming home one time, and I didn't I used to avoid sometimes coming home because there was conflict, because I knew I was in trouble. So I would just make sure I wasn't home for too long before boarding another plane. But I should have almost recognized in myself that I was doing that. And, certainly it probably cost me my first marriage because, I was always chasing the dollar with no defined what is the right amount, or is there how much is enough? Was something that was leveled towards me that I probably dismissed. Said, let's go get more. And I think I wish I'd probably pulled back a little bit, and that was a mistake I made that I vowed, never to make again, and prioritize time with my kids. I've missed lots of birthdays. I've missed, parent-teacher evenings, and I'll never get that time back. So I've been given a second chance, and I know the names of the teachers at my the kindy where my children go to school. I pick my daughter up, most days. I drop her off most days. I'm there for every single major event, and because I made that mistake of compromising that previously.
Got it. Thank you for sharing that. I need to be mentally prepared now.
just to be prepared not to sleep.
I know. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Now, you went through some bad media.
Yep.
Okay. And so these affect you personally, mentally, business, all of it, because everyone that even Jack went through some bad press. In my eyes, this is based on my life experience. People there achieve certain level of success.
Yeah,
they all going through that stage. Okay, I remember when I was in HelloFresh, I was a Jack, and I've heard about you.
Yeah.
So how did it go? What happened? Where are you at with that? How did it affect you?
So before we do that, I think it's important to appreciate that over the previous years, I had lots of run-ins. My marriage had already fallen apart, and I spent probably 6 years in dealing legally, sort of how to kind of extract yourself from a marriage. And certainly that gave me a lot of experience. And so for anyone listening who is going through challenges with that, certainly I'm pretty of an expert. 6 years in. Getting through probably about half a dozen lawyers to try and separate myself financially from my ex-wife. And that took a long time and drained me and drained my children so much so at one point I just said, look, enough. And that was it. It was 6 years in. I just went, 6 years of fighting. Eventually I just turned around and said, look, whatever. And my lawyer had to maybe sign off to say they disagree with what I was going to do. But I did that for my children. Around the same time, I was dealing with an investment into some trees from Great Southern, and a big investment that sort of went tits up. And, I was embroiled in, a loan, and I had some legal dealings with the bank, and that was going on as well in the background. So I had 3 big cases going on legally. And then around the same time, suddenly out of the blue, I then had a situation with the media, and that was based around what I felt was completely unfair. I was targeted, primarily because I had a profile.
Yeah.
I was building, just like with this podcast today, I was building a profile and building a brand outside of me running a sales business. So I was an easy target. No one else within the organization had a brand like mine. No one had a personality like mine. I was renowned for getting up on the stage and making people laugh. And that was always my intent, Perry, as you remember. Like I said to you before,
I loved it.
That's what I did, getting people on the stage. I'm just trying to think that with a crash helmet. There's so many, and I get, David, you mentioned before, getting him up on the stage, getting people laughing, dancing. Because I was always the person speaking at conferences in the middle of the day. Everyone was sick and tired of learning about sales, motivation, juice, rah. So I'd get up and do something quite wacky and zany halfway through. I would always have a sensible topic at another time, but I would always try and get people to have a good time. What happened was one of my speeches got cut, and if you look at it, and then apply that to maybe the fundraising business, it made me look pretty bad. As any video could. We could edit this, and you could we could make me. I interviewed Paul Buchanan. What an arsehole he is, Let's hope that doesn't happen. But and that's what happened was, and what happened with my appreciation was that someone from the media said he made great television. So so they made me the star of the downfall of an organization. And overnight, Perry, it was literally overnight, my 25-year career was over. Overnight, my reputation was destroyed. Overnight, my name was destroyed. And that probably was the biggest thing to me, because that's the one thing, when you have a child, what's the one thing you're already arguing over right now? If it hasn't happened already, what are you going to call the baby? What name are you going to give them? And my name, which I cherished, and it was important to me, was not something that was hurtful. It was very hurtful. And probably the people it hurt the most, it hurt me, but it hurt my children. My kids had to go to school, and their dad was on television. That was what for media, because someone wanted a class action, someone wanted more press, someone needed a bad guy, and they couldn't get information on. And Perry, that there's a bunch of other people who are involved in fundraising. That wasn't me. I was not the fundraising guy. I was the energy guy. I was the telco guy. I was the credit guy. I was not the leader of that ship. And that certainly, and even to this day, I think you mentioned it. Am I over it? I try to be over it, because I still, it's still pangs, and to say that you can get over someone like that, I'd say it's almost like a form of PST, or post-traumatic stress disorder. It really is, because something traumatic like that, even to this day, have I watched the video? No, haven't even watched it, because I'm still not ready. Nearly 10 years on, I'm still not ready to deal with that. And, that is a level of post-traumatic stress from one major event like that it can impact you for many years.
Wow. I don't see a big deal. That's because when I was working there, I knew that every dollar they would pay us, the charity would get $7 to $8 back. So they just use our skills to generate more money.
And my thing is, what did it achieve? They destroyed me and my reputation, but people still run our fundraising, had absolutely no impact on the industry. The only thing that happened, I think, from the industry was the commission-based sales changed, and everyone's moved into full employment within the industry. So maybe it was a good thing for the industry, but the sacrifice had to be made was me. And that meant for me, I exited the industry and then went on to different things. So
So in everything bad happened, there always something good happen at the back. What's something good happen at the back?
Look, well, straight after that, I was already investing into fitness. Around my time within the sales industry, it's very easy to, or at that time, people were typically unfit. You'd probably work late into the evening, finish with going to the pub, having a few beers at night. And it was like anyone in sales, we go back to the early 2000s, that's just how it was. Late nights, get up early in the morning, or early, you're going to have a coffee shop, having a coffee, and then going to the office.
Yeah.
Coffee in the morning, but there's no fitness part of it. So I found my health probably was suffering a lot. So I got onto that around sort of that circa sort of 2010. Got involved, there's a business called F45 had just launched.
Yes.
My secretary said, come along and let's go to an F45 session.
I loved you.
And I went to an F45 session. I thought I was going to die. So I was like, right, okay, I almost died today. I need to buy one of these things because because I'm also one of those people, I go all in. And rather than if I'm doing fitness, I need to buy a gym. And that's what happened. I got involved in the fitness business, got a gym, and then concurrently when my sales business kind of came to a grinding halt, I went, right, that's it, I'm all in fitness. So I went into all in the gym. I was running classes, coaching classes, back on the stage again, and then sort of set about expanding in fitness, invested in some Golds franchises that didn't pan out. The master franchise disappeared with my money, expanded into a boxing gym in Victoria that then pivoted into more of a hit gym in Victoria, and expanded into a gym equipment company called Carbon. And this is all circa 2018, 2019. And then boom, COVID hit. And all of my businesses overnight were shut. A bunch of leases, bunch of commitments, a bunch of equipment stuck on a dock in China, and I've already taken the orders for gyms here in Australia, and I had sort of bikies knocking on the door and I'm paying with a credit card, just to kind of get them off my back. And it was went from another hit, and COVID was certainly, just not just for myself, but, certainly, it impacted a lot of people, right? Yeah. But for me, coming out of the media and then straight into COVID was, I didn't have a chance to catch my breath.
How many businesses have you invested in? Now, I don't know, you don't have probably the right number. It's just to give people like an idea, like how many, I would say, failure or lessons learned you need to go through in order for you to get where you are. Like I was reading recently, Elvis Presley, I think he wrote 710 songs.
Right.
And I think 44 were successful.
I put my glasses on for this one because I knew you were going to ask me this question. So it literally, we had investments in a phone company. I invested in an acai plantation in Brazil before acai. Anyone knew what acai was? Nowadays in every coffee shop. But we're talking now sort of 15 years ago.
I remember walking to the office. I saw the big
acai, So ventilation businesses, fitness, Golds, F45, Hurt Locker, gym equipment company. My claim to fame was a beauty pageant for a couple of years. So Miss Earth for a few years and supporting Miss Universe. Digital magazines.
I remember.
Digital magazines, skincare products, the company called Real Life. My fun one was jelly shots. These little jelly, you squeeze them into your mouth. That was a good one.
Yes.
A food company, Prepped Nutrition, a recruitment business.
And we talk about 2010 here.
This is going now from 2010 through circa 2018. 2019. Over the years, many startups that never saw the light of day. So I was the seed capital for very social alarm businesses, men's health businesses that never saw the light of day, through to property and but lots and lots. So having had that experience and seeing why businesses don't work, but also knowing when to cut and when to cut your losses. Because some of these businesses I kept putting money in. Others I probably pulled out maybe too soon, or it's just poor timing. There's nothing wrong with the concept. Like the food business and Prepped was a great business. It was just, we had the wrong strategy. We were fresh, then we went frozen. Then, as I mentioned to you before, it was just like the cool chain just broke at some point, and it was just maybe before its time. And other businesses that never saw the light of day, that I think, with today's AI or technology, that those businesses would succeed. So, knowing when to cut the business, and then also knowing what to do through that. People tell you how to grow businesses, but they don't teach you how to wrap them up. And that was inspired me to help people even in that part, Perry, going forward. Like, to close a business. There's a lot of pride is involved in business ownership. People are proud to be an owner. You got your business cards, you got your office, but how to wrap it up and still retain that pride, how to wrap it up and then move on to the next thing, how to move on with your career and your life. And that's what I think a lot of people struggle with. They feel I failed. I let people down. I let my family down. I let my team down. I let the staff down. But it's knowing when to move on. And, that's a big part of, the things I've learned.
Yes. And I was about to ask you this question because you went through a lot of trial, mistakes, error, fail, go back. The average person out there, what they would be doing is, it's not for me. I should do something else. It's not for me, and this business thing is not working. No, it's not for me. This is what kept you going? They say all right, let's move to the next.
So there's a couple of things. So the modern expression we call it now is failing forward. That's the cliche, but it's been used a lot. But it was something that I coined a long time ago, about failing forward. And I've seen it. It appears a lot now.
I love that.
But if you're going to fail forward. Don't fail backwards, fail forward and move on to the next thing. Move on quickly. And, the one quote someone said about me, Paul, you're like Madonna. You're always reinventing yourself. And I do. You have to reinvent yourself in business if you want to stay contemporary. Who knows? Tesla, we went to the moon, right? It started off as a car. Now apparently we're in phones. You just how do you reinvent yourself? So I see business as how are you reinventing yourself? But that comes down through one part, and that's the hunger has to be there. This is the first time we had a conversation because the hunger's here. Maybe it wasn't there before. I was busy doing other things. I was hungry for other aspects. I wasn't hungry to be on this podcast. I wasn't hungry to get back into sales. I wasn't that hungry for it because you need the hunger. That's what I've learned. If you're not hungry for it, you're not going to succeed. If you're in a relationship, if you're not hungry to see that person, if you're not driving home like the clappers to be with that person, there's a problem. And if you're not hungry to show up to work on a Monday morning, you got a problem. If you're not hungry to show up to your office on a Saturday and run a podcast, there's a problem, and you need that hunger there. And I think staying hungry is probably the thing that's kept me going.
I love that. Which leads me now to the next questions. So, actually, before I go into this, because you invested and started a lot of businesses, how do you pick which business you're going to put your money into? This is driven by passion, or you said, oh, give me your financial statement, give me your balance sheet?
So here's the classic mistake, Perry, is the mistake I've made is I've invariably invested in people. And, I know them, I like them, I trust them. Is kind of my little code. Do I know them? Yes. Do I like them? Yes. Do I trust them? Yes. Go get the 3 yeses. You can come, not to say anyone now after this, they witness this, they start saying, Paul can have some money because eventually it runs out, right? Yeah. But for me, if I know you, like you, trust you, I would invest in you. And invariably I would meet someone, would have a conversation, say, hey, I've got a great idea. I'm like, I'm in. They go, you want to see anything? I said, don't worry about that. I'm in. How much do you need? And, my bookkeepers, my accountants would always be, they call me the Bank of Burkett. So what I haven't included on here is all the people I'm invested in within the sales industry. You know, the people who I'd lend money to. You know, people say I pay their tax bill, I pay their BAS bill to keep them in business. Yeah. You know, say, hey Paul, I've got a BAS bill I can't afford. So no worries, here's $50,000, get you out of trouble. Hey Paul, I'll give you a caveat on a mortgage, and don't worry about that. I trust you. You know, I know you'll pay me back. They never did, but whatever it is, I've invested, and I'm always invested in people. And I think that's what happened from the sales game, because some of them will come good. You know, that person would then turn around. You mentioned that gentleman before. I'd sleep on his couch. I'd reinvest, and that person's fun enough still in the direct sales business, still kicking along today because there was probably time invested in that person. Yeah. So I'd invest in the person. You know, my advice to myself now is, if you trust the individual, still do due diligence and make sure the business is a good business before you give them the money. So that's the only word I'd tell myself now is get some other advice. And maybe for me, you know, I didn't listen to anybody. I didn't have a mentor that I would actually go to before I'd cut a check for $1 million, you know, or cut a check for $100,000. I didn't run it past. I didn't do a sanity check. I just went with it. And as salespeople, that's the problem with the salespeople. We typically buy on impulse, and I would invest on impulse. So my advice would be is if you've got that as part of your DNA, just, you know, don't let your wife or don't let you get a mentor to stop you spending that kind of money.
I love that. Going to the fitness and health.
Yep.
You're doing very good. I'm not gonna say your age, but you are into your 50s.
Yeah, now into the it's got a 5 at the beginning now. So
what's the advice and what has been your turning point that you said, all right, I need to invest into my health? And what's your advice for people in your similar age, 40s, 50s? They struggle because they have kids.
Yeah.
They're running businesses. They go to work to actually staying fit.
Look, there's something probably deeper, Perry, that I don't think people necessarily discuss, that typically as we get older, we suffer from sadness and suffer from the sads a lot more. And sad to me is stress, anxiety, and depression. And it's something that impacts more middle-aged men. And that is well documented because if you open up YouTube or the internet and so what's the most dangerous age for suicide, it's my age. Men get to a middle age, life hasn't delivered them what they thought they were going to get, and they make decisions not to continue. That I'm so aware of, because, you know, at certain times in the middle of the night, when everyone's asleep, the house is quiet, you run things through in your head. And the longer you're alive, the more videos you got to play with. Yeah. And when you're young, you'll focus on the future. But as you get a bit older, you now realize you're living in the past. And if that past, maybe there were some amazing highs, you typically think about the lows at 2:00 in the morning when as you get older, maybe the prostate's not great. You're heading to the bathroom a few more times. So if you don't have things to focus on, the things to keep you going, the sads typically kick in. And for me, I think a lot about men's health, because that's what's been in my journey. And certainly, you know, the more I'm focused on my health, my well-being, looking after myself, feeling good about myself, self-love kicks in when you're thinking about getting to the gym the next day, you know, that shot of creatine in the morning, you know, the protein drinks in the afternoon, you know, getting a sharp fade, whatever it is, sharp clothes, keeps you looking to the future. You know, and maybe, you know, if there's, you know, a dad around yourself who's starting to let themselves go, they're not hitting the gym, you know, they're not doing those things. Maybe they're the sort of the warning signs. So for me, health and fitness was part of my journey. And certainly when I was hitting the gym, that's when I felt good, you know, because I achieved the goal. I bench press 100 kilos this morning. Feel great, and I'm looking
Damn.
good. But you want to look good. You want to feel good about yourself. And if you're not doing those things, hitting those little milestones, and certainly you could do podcasts, and people always tell you, that ritual of fitness and health. And that's why I went all into the fitness industry, because I couldn't get up in front of people if I wasn't doing it myself. Yeah. And certainly I found when the fitness industries, I moved on from the fitness industry, that's when I needed the next challenge.
You got married again.
Yep.
Second marriage.
Yep.
Tatiana.
Yep.
Shout out.
Yeah.
How did these affect you, or why you choose to do it? How did it happen? Were you looking for it, or just naturally happen?
It's nowadays it's the internet, and that's how we all meet, right? I think nowadays so maybe we edit that part out, but anyway, but no, we met in a bar. No, look, it was it's a second chance, Perry. For me, being and having a support person who's got your back. A marriage is family. And when you get married, you just add it to your family. And that's how I see a marriage. It's a team member, and that's how it should be. And if you're ever in a relationship and you don't feel on the right team, you probably change teams. And that's what happened to me in the past. Yeah. I've been in relationships, and then people decide, hey, we're not aligned. And if you're not aligned, you need time to move on. It certainly impacts you financially. So maybe there's some other lessons and maybe some other advice I can give people about how to set yourself up for success. But that's probably a completely another conversation. But certainly for me, it was a second chance. And having a new family was a second chance. I love all of my children equally. And having another shot with some fresh babies means I can see the mistakes that I made historically, because I make different decisions now than I made in the past. And I'm grateful to Tatiana. I'm grateful for Zaindon, and I'm grateful for Sasha, that enable me to be a better dad. And that's it. I just want to be better. I don't want to be the same version of me. I want to be a better version of me. I want to be a better dad, and that's what a second chance is. I want to be complete. I want to be there for all of their parent-teacher evenings. I want to make sure I'm around, and I want to learn from the mistakes of the past.
Little tip for people looking for the right part, because, you went through different relationships.
Yeah.
And what a tip would you give to someone to pick in the right person? I know you mentioned a little bit.
It's a really good question, Perry. I think you're not going to pick the right person. This isn't shopping. We're not literally. It's not like you're not at the supermarket, Perry. You are. Maybe a better analogy. Maybe it's more wine tasting. I don't know.
What make you realize, all right, I can grow a relationship with this girl? Like, what make you understand, like, yes, or no, I'll move to the next one.
This is maybe too deep, but every relationship succeeds and fails with a certain code. And just like in business and business partners, it's like what you look for in a business partner. Do you trust them?
Yeah.
Some of my relationships were not built on trust, and not from my perspective, but, and that falls over, it's done. A lot of relationships, you've got to work hard. It's got to be 50-50,
Yeah.
And why am I doing all the work here? It doesn't work.
Yeah.
But to me, one of the biggest failures in most relationships is communication. And you got to work hard at communication. I happen to be with someone whose first language is not English. So we struggle to communicate,
like
but we struggle to communicate, Perry,
Yeah.
which means we've got to work hard at it.
Yeah.
And I have to pay extra special attention. I can't switch off, because otherwise I don't get it. you know, but that means that when we communicate, and, you know, we have to work hard at the communication. So it's almost accepted. Part of our relationship is the communication, and every argument I have with my wife is based on sometimes communication. I didn't get the message that was delivered, or it's not interpreted correctly because we've used the wrong word. You know, the intent was there. So, you know, communication to me, I think is the key. If you communicate well with someone and they get you and you get them, you know, the relationship's bound for success.
Thank you. Communication. I like that. You moved to the Central Coast?
Yeah, that was a holiday house. So that was during COVID, when my gyms were shut. I needed an investment, and I wanted a project. So
you did work yourself?
Yeah, I did it all myself. We were COVID, everything was shut down. So I got a house, and I spent the better part of 2 years renovating the house. But it actually worked out really well because I'd get up, I'd go for a run, and my fitness was on point. I got so lean because it was invariably there by myself. I left my wife in the city because you couldn't travel. I locked myself down. You know, I sanded the floors down. I painted the whole building. I built a swimming pool. There was no DA.
By yourself?
There's no DA on the pool. I just dug a hole and I was online. I saw you could get these swimming pools for like couple of $1,000. I'm sure it's $800, like these big best way pools that are just like they're above ground. And I went, they look ugly. So I dug a hole and put it below ground, if you know what I mean. You know, those pools that they just sit above the ground. I just dug a great big hole and put it underneath. But then as I'm digging the hole, the dirt's falling away and I'm building retaining walls. I'm no builder, by the way.
Like, to rephrase this, he moved to the Central Coast and bought a property that needed a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
And he chose to do everything by himself. And I know what it takes because I am into the industry. We got builders here.
Yeah.
And you did it all by yourself. How long it took you?
It's a couple of years.
What do you do? Like watching video and applying? Well, how did you?
I'm rocking up to. This is a funny story. I'm rocking up to Bunnings in my Range Rover. And, you know, I'm putting sleepers in. I'll show you photos. I've got sleepers in the back of the car, cement. The suspension's gone right down. And the guys, literally, they're scratching their head. There's this polished, beautiful looking Range Rover. And I'm just putting massive sleepers in the car to build retaining walls for my pool, you know, and I'm there digging holes. It did get to a point, though, I did have to get some professionals in when a few of my retaining walls weren't quite the 90 degrees. I went, I maybe need to get some pros in, and then I needed a concrete base for the pool, so I did get some pros in eventually to help me to finish the project.
I'm like, I won't be able to do, like, I'm a buyer's agent. I know the law, I know how to deal with the council, I know a lot of things, and I wouldn't be able to do that. So
yeah, I had a crack, and yeah, it to be fair though, Perry, it was amazing for my mental health. It was during COVID. There was not a lot else going on, so I was super busy. You know, it really supported me through that process. Had I not had that project on that house, it would have been a very different COVID experience for me.
Are you more of a guy who struggled to be by himself? Quiet, silence?
When I'm doing something, leave me alone. I'm in the zone. I was at that house by myself and felt great. You know, I'd wake up in the morning, go grab a coffee, come back, start working, and literally just work all day, no interruptions, you know. I put my headphones on and just go for it and just graft. Because what I like, Perry, at the end of the day, I could stand back and go, I did that. I've just built some retaining walls, or I've just, put up a fence, or I've just painted.
Yeah.
Like, I love painting, Perry. Like, you just, the accomplishment of standing back and going, my house was blue before, it was an ugly, like blue turquoise house. The whole thing was turquoise, dark wooden floors inside, sand in the back, that lovely beach white feel outside on the flooring. I stood back and I did that. And that sense of accomplishment you get from construction and building, and that's what builders do. They turn around and go, I did that. And that was really good for my mental health.
It is fulfilling.
Really good for mental health.
It's not the first time I hear that.
Yeah.
It's very fulfilling.
I love it. Okay. Big chapter in your life. You joined the army.
Yeah.
There you go, everyone.
Oh, there's a picture there. Yeah.
So wait. Okay, that's him. How old were you when you choose to join the army in Australia?
In my late 40s. So
To clarify, folks, this gentleman choose to join the army at 40 years old.
for be late 40s, yeah, late 40s.
40, like 46 or something.
Quite close to 47, 48, yeah.
Oh, which is actually like, what? Which is crazy, because when I was 18, I was thinking I did sports science,
Yeah.
or join the army or police, something like that. That's
Yeah.
what I was wanted to do. My parents, Italian, oh, you need to get a degree, study. What was the drive at 47 years old to join the Australian army?
The one thing for life, Perry, we're not here forever. We have an allocated period of time before someone taps us on the shoulder, say we're done.
Yeah.
My whole sales career, I'd tell people my story. Why are you here? Well, I was supposed to join the British Army. I was supposed to go to Sandhurst. I got a job in sales. I've had this career, and that's my career. And that was what I told that story thousands upon thousands of times. It was during COVID. We're in lockdown. I've got the holiday house. I'm doing some renovations. I'm coming home to Sydney, and I'm sat on the couch, and my wife's going, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm sat on the couch." She goes, "No, but what are you going to do once the things open up? The gyms. What do you want to do?" I said, "Well, funny you should mention it. I've asked of partners of my ex-wife in the past for this very thing, but I'll try it with you." And so I did the thing. I said, "Hey, look, this is something I did back in the UK. I went through this process to become an officer in the British Army. Never happened. Would you be happy with me to do that here in Australia?" And my wife, Tatiana, said, "Sure." And I went, "Are you serious?" Because there's another backstory to this. Is during COVID, I was coaching a commando, and he was coming to our F-45 classes, and we were doing some PT, some military training, and I'm not gonna say I was at his level, but I wasn't far off because I was training every day. And he was like, "Paul, you should apply." I said, "Man, I'm too old." He goes, "You're not." And I went, "Really?" So even for anyone listening, in my 40s, I thought, you're finished. You can't. There's an age thing. I said, no, it's not. The army needs people. It needs people just like you to lead. It needs people who've got experience, because it's not just about young people in the army. The army needs people who can offer something, and you can. So he inspired me to kind of get the courage to talk to my wife. So, Chris, if he listens to this, he was the reason I did this. So Chris was like, you should do that. And so I went, okay, I'll check with my wife first. And I checked, and she said, "Do it." So I went, and she said, yes. I went, and then my heart sank. I went, "Oh my God, I've got to do it." Because that was it. The excuse was taken away, because I thought she would say no. Because I was going to go back, but I was willing to go back and tell him, "Hey, you said it," but the wife, because she was pregnant at the time.
Yeah.
But she was just, and maybe had I asked a few months later after the baby was born, it would have been a different story. But she was pregnant. So, "Hey, you can do this." She hadn't had a baby, right? And then, the baby was born. And then through this process, it takes a while to go through it to get into the military. It's not an overnight thing, and you could need a bit of persistence to stick at it. But I stuck at it, and I went through the testing for it. And, through that testing process, they were like, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to be an officer." And they were, "Okay, all right, you want to be an officer?" You realize most of the people who want to be officers are in their 20s, and you're coming in now a little bit older. And I said, "Yeah, I want to do it." So I went through the process, and got it through selection, got through the selection process, and had to go to boot camp, which is Kapuka, and went through the Kapuka process, which, for anyone who's listening to this, everyone goes through it. It's where Australian soldiers are made. And I was away for 35 days, and at this time, I think my wife, Sasha, was probably, if I say 3 or 4 months old. And when I came back, she'd been through hell. I was like, "Hey, let me tell you about my story and how much hell I've been through." She told me about hers. I went, "Okay, mine was nothing like yours." And that was over 4 years ago. This is my 4th year now. So I've been in the Australian Army as an officer for the last 4 years.
What's the day-to-day schedule in the army? Like, what time you wake up? What's
Oh,
the
look,
schedule?
I guess because of my role, I'm a reservist, but I'm able to put in more time. So my average contribution to army is about 100 days a year. The expectation to be a soldier in a reserve is a minimum of 20 days. So your expectation is to do a minimum of 20 days, which should be most Tuesday evenings and a couple of weekends over the course of the year. For me, you know, like I said, Perry, everything I do by halves. So rather than do 100 days, rather than do about 20 days, I do close to 100 days. So, you know, the commitment is every Tuesday night, parading, 1 weekend a month. And then over the course of the year, there's usually a couple of exercises that you go on. And so, you know, for me, I do that, but I also do extra training. For me, I do a lot of extra courses because my role is as an engineer. So I've been within the Australian Engineers. For me, has been, you know, learning all the skill sets that an engineer would need to have, such as search, demolitions. So I need to learn what my soldiers need to learn. So I need to do the extra courses as well. And even now I'm doing more courses this year to become a captain. So you have to have, you know, all the time with you to get promoted, you have to do the courses. So for me, it's made up of my parade times, my weekends, my exercises, and the training around it. So I'm very busy in the army. So, you know, doing the basics, but also getting the skill set to move on to the next promotion.
And what do you do when you go there? You spend all day there. You leave around 5, 6 o'clock, something like that.
Yeah. So typically the parade time's on a Tuesday. Got to be there at 7 o'clock. And that goes on till 10 o'clock at night. So it's typically 3 hours on a Tuesday night. That's the expectation. But for me, you know, I'm always getting in a bit earlier. Yeah. I'm always in there at lunchtime on a Tuesday and exiting sometimes 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Do they teach you how to use guns?
Oh, yes.
That's the kids come out of me now.
Yeah.
I would love to learn that.
Yeah. Not because I want to kill anyone. I just want to. Do you get a license after if you want to get guns at home?
Completely separate, Perry. Yeah,
different story.
Yeah, completely separate. Yeah.
I just went to a wedding and this gentleman's got a farm. He's got like these beautiful guns at the back. But yeah, he's got a farm. He's got a hunting.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, if I think about it, at 47, you choose to join the army. How did you feel when the majority of the people there, they are much younger than you?
Yeah, well, that's a really good point. So most of them are the same age as my son. And it was through the process, there was one weekend in Canberra, it was a particularly cold night. And for whatever reason, my bones were cold and I got, you know, it's my turn for what's called a picket duty. So if I say it's probably 2:30 in the morning, it's pouring down with rain and we're on you have to get up to man a machine gun. So I'm getting up and I'm struggling and to get up out of, you know, putting my boots on, you know, because you have to kind of strip off because I think it was raining that night. So I was already wet. So you take your wet clothing off, your wet shirt, and you take all that stuff off to get into a dry sleeping bag. Obviously, you make your sleeping bag wet. And if you want to get back into a nice warm sleeping bag, it needs to be dry. So I'm then putting my wet clothing on, you know, and I've got it on. I've got my boots on, put my webbing on. And then as I'm getting up, my eyes hadn't adjusted and I tripped over a guideline and went crashing down to the ground to a thud. And one of the guys he called out to me, he goes, "Are you okay?" And I was like, apparently I grunted yes. Long story short, the guy who called out to me is one of my son's mates from university. And he relayed that story back to my son. He goes, "Oh, your dad fell over in the middle of the night." And I heard him sort of groan for a little bit. I thought he'd died. So, yeah.
Are you planning to spend more time into the army in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I see this as my retirement. I didn't have a plan for retirement, so the army has given me that, and it's given me that structure, and that's what I've really enjoyed about it, Perry. It's been a really good career path now to the end of my usefulness. During my time running a gym, I was able to lead, but I was leading people in a class, but didn't have lots of staff. And what I've missed that opportunity to lead and be a leader. And that's what I've really enjoyed in my time in the military is given me an opportunity to lead people again. And that's what I've missed. I loved the leadership component of my sales business and, you know, running gyms and all these small little startups. I wasn't able to kind of get in front of people. And that's kind of what I've missed. And even with the army, it's kind of rekindled that taste for me. And in the army, you know, I've learned the structural components and the doctrine about how things are. And, certainly with the planning principles of, anyone listening with IMAP or JMAP, and there's certain principles about how you plan and how you plan an operation through to when things happen, such as instantaneous with SMEAC, situation, mission, so there's other acronyms. I'm not sure I can go through all of them right now, but, I apply SMEAC to everything day to day. What's the situation? What's the mission? What's the execution? What's our admin? What's our command and SIG? It's now intuitive. Whenever things go on at home, I go, right, SMEAC, okay, situation. What's the intent? So certainly with that, I'm now applying back from the military. It's almost gone full circle now. I've got all these principles, and then I'm now applying them to what I already know into business. And so it's kind of now, that's why it's dovetailed now through, hold on, that's really inspired me to give me the confidence I can lead. I knew already, but it's just kind of someone to tell me, and whether it be some pips on my shoulders to tell me that you can lead, Paul. You're actually, we trust you as a government to lead. I led before, and that's kind of inspired me that I want to lead again.
Yeah, that's what I love about the army, because a lot of businesses call them or relying on, speakers or Jocko
Wilson.
Yeah. And what I personally love about them and the message that I get is the level of discipline and the level of consistency they just teach you that everybody should be aware of.
Yeah.
Now, everybody should be aware of means you've been training people for the last 20, even 30 years.
30 years, Perry,
okay. And you've seen different generations in these 30 years. What's the difference that you notice in these different generations? When you were training people 10 years ago, compare you training people now, last week.
Yeah.
What's the differences?
There's a few things. I'd say primarily is I thrive on adversity. Because it's easy to find. I enjoy the challenge. The expression that anyone who's gone through Kapuka will know. Challenging but rewarding. You thrive on the challenge. It's not meant to be easy. The one expression you'd say to someone on a picket duty at 3:00 in the rain is "Be comfortable being uncomfortable." If you're comfortable being rained on and cold and wet, what could get worse? Yeah. We don't mention the R word, by the way, when on exercises. So, but adversity builds resilience. And I think nowadays I notice a lot of people shy away from it. They want the easy path. Give me the easy option. Let's take the hard pill or the easy pill. Everyone's taking the easy one. No one wants to go the hard path. And certainly, that's what I see a lot. I see that people look for the quick fix. Yeah. Before you have to Google things to get answers, but Google would never give the answer. You have to go onto websites to try and get the answer. Now you go, ChatGPT, I have a question. I want to plan a holiday. ChatGPT is telling you the answer.
Yeah.
You don't have to think anymore. You don't have to. You haven't got to research anymore. When I grew up, Perry, my mum would say we used to have an Encyclopedia Britannicas. You want to find something, you got to work. You got to go to the library. You got to go. You do your research, and I think people just want it easy. And I think that's sort of the thing I'd notice and I sense in people. They just want the easier option.
Yeah, I was actually reflecting a couple of days ago that I often now use ChatGPT, which is a phenomenal tool, and it's true. Give you an answer quickly.
Yeah.
What I believe the negative of it is you're not gonna build the work ethic what actually takes to find the solution.
Yeah.
And
I think that's it, Perry. A lot of people are lacking self-discipline to be able to follow through on whatever it is. You need that self-discipline approach. You need leadership, and you can't pick that up from ChatGPT. It can't give it to you. You can't inject it. Maybe the future, maybe that's the next iteration of ChatGPT, where it's like the old Matrix, where it's like, in you go, and then you've got it. But that's the point. I think people now, they're going to get even lazier because the information is there, but they're not going to want to go through the process. Yeah. But it's the process that gives you the skills. It gives you the intuitiveness, that tactile gut feeling You don't get a gut feeling when you're just reading from ChatGPT. You know, you haven't done any, you haven't had to work for it.
That's true. And you miss the patience factors. Like the great things doesn't happen overnight. You know what I mean? When they give you an answer straight away, you're kind of used to get quick results.
Yeah.
So when you actually try to do something, this can be building a business or maybe develop your kids or whatever, which I believe takes much more patience.
Yeah, agreed.
Love it. Thank you, Paul. The other question is, what would Paul in his 50s tell to Paul in his 20s?
The big thing I think I might have come up earlier is slow down. Slow down. It's okay just to take a tactical pause. Breathe in, breathe out, engage. This has just come back to me now. My mum used to Paul, engage brain before speaking. All the time.
Say that again, please.
Engage brain before speaking. So often I would blurt things out and regret them straight away. And decisions would be made, but I made that decision because that was the decision then. You take a tactical pause, you might make a different decision. And so often I'd say that to people. I go, look, I'm going to give you two answers. I'm going to give you what I'm getting from my head, but I'm going to give you an answer from my heart. I'll give you the choice which one you want to react to. My head says I should fire you. My heart says I want to give you more time because I think there's something going wrong and that there's something else happening here. That's what I feel. But my head is telling me this. My head is telling me, don't do this investment because it doesn't make sense. But my vibe is saying, I love this property. I want to buy it. I know it's more expensive, but you deal with it in sales all the time. We attach into those emotions. And I think some of salespeople, sometimes we just go with that flow and we don't want to listen to that voice. So my thing would be that tactical pause and Paul, listen to that other voice in your head and give them a chance to have an opinion.
I like that. Tactical pause.
Tactical pause.
Paul, has been more than an hour.
Oh, yeah.
But I still got a few questions if you don't mind.
Yeah, no worries.
I love this. What are you most proud of?
My children.
5 kids.
My children.
It's interesting because I rarely see people that have more than 3 kids.
Invariably there may be another person involved because there's a process. You have to kind of do something about it.
You're right.
And then the baby has to come out, and then there's a period where you can't go near that person because they know what happened the last time, and then they maybe forget a little bit, and then maybe you go again. So then that process takes time, and then eventually someone works out they want to move on and get other things out of their life. So so they're invariably five children might be from different people.
Have you always wanted to have 5 kids?
No, I was happy at 3, but life gave me a second opportunity. So
I love that.
This is the last question just come out to mind, because when I first saw you were driving an Aston Martin. So what would you say has been the most bolla or fun toys? These can be watches, cars, plane, whatever, or adventure or trip that you've ever had or you ever done?
The biggest adventure is at my age making a decision to go into the army is the biggest adventure, because it's ongoing, it's not over, and that's why it's an adventure. Holidays, everything else is just a holiday.
Yeah.
Every other experience is a materialistic experience. This watch here is probably just for this interview. I normally wear a Garmin, and it's a military green Garmin I usually wear, but I didn't want to kind of flash that up. But a watch it's just stuff.
Yeah.
It's just packaging and wrapping paper. That's what stuff is. The car is wrapping paper. But the experiences and we're like holidays. I can say I've had some great holidays and some great times, but I'd say that the time in the military has proven to be the biggest challenge. Lots of adversity already, and certainly lots of challenges already. And yet again, there's another expression. I only feel like I'm only getting started as well. So that's something that I'm really enjoying. I think because it ties back into civilian as well, and I get excited about learning things in the green because I apply that into my civilian time.
Nice.
So on from the sailing, I've just come off a boat, had a beautiful holiday with my family. We went down to Hobart, but as I'm sitting here, I'm swaying, and anyone knows when you go on a boat, you kind of just get used to it. It is what it is. You get your sea legs.
Yeah.
And in life, you need your sea legs. You got to kind of get with the flow. And as I'm sitting here, everything's moving slightly, but it's because that's what I've been used to for the last few days on the boat. But seamanship, sailing, there's so many analogies from that. And the one thing I said before was when great seas, smooth seas don't make great sailors, and no one was tested in a harbor. So in life and in business, out there, it's not easy. Expect it to be tough. And especially in business, that sometimes you want to go from here to here, but everything's going against you. The interest rates, business, property prices, whatever it is, I want to become a real estate agent right now. Wow. Okay. Interest rates up. There's young guys right now who are going through the real estate game, right? And they're finding it tough, but you can still make sales. Property prices, Perry, still going up.
Yes.
People can still money to be made.
Yes.
But you have to take a different tact. You have to take a different approach. You can still move ahead, but you go the head this way, but you've got to work a little bit harder. You have to put the time in. You've got to put the effort in. Nothing in life is free. You've got to work at it, but you've got to be prepared to put the work in. You've got to be prepared to maybe go left. You've got to be prepared to go right. You've got to be prepared to go left. And you're like, but before, I'm not covering a lot of distance. When the wind was behind me, when maybe interest rates were low, or whatever it might be, that things just seem to happen. But that's because the wind was behind you. It was behind it for everybody else. Yeah, of course you made progress, but the wind was behind you. And there will be times in your career that you'll have the wind behind you. But I can guarantee you in your career, at some point, the wind will be face on. That's when you're going to be shown, and that's where you're going to find out how good you really are. When the wind's directly in your face, you just want to pull the sails down and give up. Or do you pull those sails up, get that boom going across, and just finding those angles, finding that little 1%, 2%, 3% angle. Hey, we're making progress. Not going very far, but I'm going somewhere. We can all be heroes when the wind's behind us. And I see that a lot of young people, getting some eBay account or getting a YouTube account and suddenly becoming heroes. And well, it was really easy. But how about when no one's watching your videos?
Yeah.
You post a video, no one's watching. You list a property and no one comes to the open. You try to sell it. You try and set up a business and no one buys your product. What do you do then? Do you give up? Or do you just make a slight tweak, make a slight change? Smooth seas don't make great sailors. So just get the right advice. Last thing, I can guarantee you one thing: when you is that me? When you're going through hell, don't stop. And in business, I see some people, they just give up. Just put your foot down and go straight through. If you're in those dark tunnels, just focus on that little light at the end of the tunnel. It's just there. It might be small, but as you get closer, it gets brighter and brighter and brighter. And that's all you can do is when you're going through hell, just find that little white dot. And sometimes you might need someone to point you in that right direction. And that's where, consulting businesses and getting a coach will be, hey, someone's got to point, hey, there's the dot over there. Get someone to help you through that, focus on that little light and get you through there as quickly as you possibly can do. What I've learned is if someone can help you in that right direction, you'll go through it faster. I can guarantee you will go through it though. And I think a lot of people go through life and business and expect that it's all going to be plain sailing. It's all going to be wind behind you, wind in your back. But more often than not, it's going to be prepare for that wind in your face.
What's the future? What are you planning? I know you never stop.
Yeah,
doesn't matter what happened to you.
Put my glasses back on now because I knew this would come up. So I guess the one thing for me is sharing with people the self-discovery component. sharing the goal setting component, sharing my stories of relationships, sharing the development of sales, if I see that, sharing technology and how I see technology working for people. And that's applied in a few different areas, Perry. And one is, I've been looking for things to sell, and over the years, and I think finally, finding something, for example, where there's a process that will help small business owners, because I am a small business owner.
Yeah.
And have run lots of small business. I get it. And finding whatever it is that's going to help them. And that's been one thing. And, that's something I'm going to be taking out to market and finding things that small business owners need. What's really going to help them? Whether it be CRM, some sort of system or process, using AI, whatever that is. That's going to be one product. The other product around that is sharing some sales experience and helping small business owners close more deals and get more sales. Because if you want more water in the bucket, you got to learn to turn the tap on. Yeah, we can put more. If there's holes in the bucket, we can fix that. But helping small business owners turn that tap on and get more sales revenue. I get it, because I get what it's like to be a new sales rep. I was one. I get it what it's like to be an older veteran sales rep, because I am one. And I get that process, and I think I can share that knowledge, 30 years of knowledge, of real knowledge, and applying it to a bunch of different businesses, and that will really help small business owners. Lastly is, I call it the business turnaround, or I call it 180. Like my business Reach 360 is kind of taking a 360 look at the business, and then 180 is about literally changing direction. And I've pivoted so much, but learning to pivot your business. And, if you're going in the wrong direction, it's about putting yourself back in the right direction. But it's also knowing to get help from someone if maybe, all is lost and you're going to bail out. And, because I've done that, of a few businesses, and knowing what point it is a good time. And the one thing I wish I'd got was some good advice. And I didn't know who to talk to, because I didn't know who to trust, because invariably the people around me had a motive to want to keep me involved, So I'd like to think having that outsider come in to say, hey, look, no agenda here. You go left, you go right. It makes no difference to me. But in my opinion, I go right based on my experience. And that's what I wish I'd had more of, Perry. And that's certainly where I feel I can add value into certain businesses nowadays, by giving people that perspective, because experience is perspective. As you've got to know more about my history, that's what experience can lend to business owners. And moreover, I think when you can combine that with a system and a process, which I learned from the military, and that's all military is, your doctoring system processes, and applying that to various different factors. You apply that to business, you apply it to life, you apply it to health and fitness, well-being, family, relationships, and you get that process working. You're gonna get to where you want to be.
Paul, this has been fantastic. If someone want to be in contact with you, want to hire you, speak with you, learn from you, where they can find your Instagram, what?
Yeah, so there'll be, I'm assuming you put a link on. So we'll throw a link on. That'd be the best way to get hold of me.
What's your Instagram official?
Official PB Life.
Official PB Life on Instagram. I'm going to put the link below. If someone want to send you text, message, anything.
Hello at reach360.com.au. Hello at reach360.
Paul, I promised you 40 minutes, just an hour and a half. I'm very sorry, but thank you. I'm honored
thank you.
that you gave me your time to come in and share all your life knowledge and experiences. I feel you live like 17 lives. And
the cats have 9 lives, right? So yeah, I think I've got through the same as a cat so far. So, but that's it. Live your best life. But literally, I think, Perry. I mean, if there's one thing, is just knowing when to pivot. And that's probably the one thing. Again, if we can, this is probably not on there, but it's that we talk about the 180. 360, it's a 180, it's pivoting, when you're combat maneuvers, you're moving, and, take on board that combat maneuver, knowing to pivot, knowing to move, marksmanship principles. There's a certain principles to you mentioned shooting before, but there's principles. But there's principles to life, there's principles to business. And if you've lost yours, I've lost sight of them, and you feel like you're a ship that's just kind of my analogy of getting the sails up. Yeah. But invariably, if your ship isn't where it needs to be and you're in business, sometimes just pull up the sails, no pun intended, but I like whenever I fly into Auckland, city of sales. But we always do my sales there. Pull those sales up, but just literally, and it might just mean that you need to take a different tact, a different approach. We've just had the Sydney to Hobart, I was just in Hobart recently, bit of tragedy there. But it's important that when that boom comes across, because that's exactly what happened, right? My appreciation is the boom moved. You sometimes that thing just you got to keep your head down, and you got to take a different tact and a different approach. Even with headwinds coming against you, you can still move forward, but you got to take a different tact. You got to take a different approach. Smooth seas don't make great sailors. So, if you're going through a choppy time, you're having a challenging time, go speak to an experienced sailor or soldier.
There you go. Army official, serial entrepreneur, and father of 5, Paul Beckett. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. Cheers. Boom.
This is general advice and does not take into consideration your objectives, situation, or needs. You should consider if this advice is suitable to you or your circumstances, and please read any applicable PDFs beforehand. This is a Henderson podcast production.